I think we're live now. Are we live now? Oops, where are we? We're going to talk recovery. There you go. Reese is going to be our cameraman today. Thank you, Reese.
Woohoo!
Woohoo! Hey, Facebook world, thanks for joining us. We're going live in 1 minute and I think 10 seconds. You're watching and listening to Talk Recovery Radio, powered by New West Recovery. Here's Francis. Hey, Francis, my co-host, and Darren. Where's Darren?
Darren!
All right, let's get the show on the road.
There you go.
Okay, we're on air. Microphones are on, but silent. Are you nervous? We got Miranda in the house. Hello. From Charlford House. Francis will tell you what it's all about in 10 seconds.
There we have Darren.
Well, hello.
Darren's in the house. Hey, Darren.
I mean,
Hello, Facebook. Darren is exactly on time. Thank you, Darren.
Are we on the mic?
No, the mics are on silence. Yeah. Okay.
Hi,
Okay,
Darren.
microphones are going on.
Looking cool and amazing as usual.
Good afternoon, Vancouver. Hello, and welcome to Talk Recovery Radio. Today is our 163rd show. I'm uploading a new website, so I know exactly how many blogs there are, so that's why I know. I'm not counting the shows on a chalkboard. But yeah, 163 today, and coming up to 5 years. We are in Vancouver Co-op Radio, CFRO 100.5. Talking about recovery on the airways here in the downtown east side in what's known as Canada's most openly wide welcoming drug environment is another way of saying it, I guess. So we're doing our bit. I just saw somebody I've known for many years coming out of the Portland Hotel Society, has an office next door to here, and it was really sad. He's all junked out, and I told him I'm here every Thursday at noon. Hopefully he'll come see us next Thursday, but yeah, he's not doing so well. Francis Stone, my co-host. Hello, Francis.
I just had these.
Is this your second last show?
Yeah, next week is my last show.
Aww.
Francis is leaving us. She's moving on to bigger, bolder, stronger, louder stuff.
I don't know.
You don't know?
We'll see.
She'll see, but
I don't know.
yeah. So next week is Francis's last show, and Francis will be doing her personal story with us. So everybody tune in next week, and let's send off Francis Stone with a big send-off show.
No, I think you just.
Yes. And Darren? Hi, Darren.
yeah, good afternoon.
Good night. You're so cool with those glasses on, indoors, with your tube, you're late. That's awesome.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah. I love it,
The
Darren.
glasses is just because I'm late.
Just
To
because.
be fashionably late.
Just because, yes. So usually at the very beginning of the show, we talk about some hot topics, and it's quite interesting. I got a call a couple days ago, or yesterday. There's a story out there about the intervention market and interventionists and the what is it all about and so forth, and there's been some complaints sent to the Vancouver Sun, and so they want to do a story about it, and it was quite interesting because the Vancouver Sun came on an angle like these people are scamming people, and it's like, well, hold up a second, because there's some people I know that have had an intervention and their mom's paid for it, and I mean the mom is like, my son would be dead if he didn't have an intervention. And then there's some people that have had interventions by the same interventionist, and it's like they ripped me off. So I think it's really, that's the problem with addiction. We can't understand the outcomes. I mean, all these people that say, we need outcomes and evidence-based outcomes, it's like 50-50. I mean, the same situation, the same person, the same everything, but two totally different results. Ultimately, there's some accountability on the person that's using substances. However, I did acknowledge to them The biggest problem is the government just turns a blind eye. Like, why doesn't the government pay for interventions and pay for recovery coaches to get people into recovery? It should be the government doing interventions and recovery coaching. It's the first step to getting people from hitting the downtown east side or hitting, that supposed bottom, which I don't believe in. So what is your take?
I've been involved in some interventions, and I've done personal counseling. Your service is dealing with people that are completely desperate, that have huge expectations, right? Like, they're looking for the fix,
Yeah,
right? And anything under that,
it's
like,
a failure.
it is.
Yeah,
And it is, and it will be that same feeling with the interventionist. And I mean, here's my take, my personal take. I'm a human being. I'm an addict, and I've wanted to help people. I've taken that on.
yeah.
It is hard to exchange money in those situations. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard to be a professional, and I need you to sign a contract for services rendered. And then things not work out, and have that conversation. It's just a difficult situation.
It's difficult.
I think you're right, Giuseppe. I think that it should be covered by medical. I think at least honestly half, it's $5,000 for an intervention. That's probably a little bit low.
That
that's,
is, yeah.
Honestly, that's kind of ridiculous. And plus, I don't even know what kind of standards and teaching and all that kind of stuff there is around interventions. Like,
It's
what
all
kind of
wild
accountability.
west. There are some associations out there that license and accredit interventionists. There's some from the States, and there are some great interventionists
there
out
are.
there. And just like anything, there's some great hairdressers and there's some horrible ones. I mean, it's the same thing. Really, it's simplified, but it is the same thing.
And their rates vary.
And their
Yeah.
rates
Because of that.
varies. I mean, I don't have to worry about that anymore because I'm going to the hair salon. But the government needs to step in, and the only thing I could offer as well to that story was the mom that feels like she's been ripped off and scammed. I mean, she can be a victim in the scenario, or she can be an advocate in the scenario, and that's what we need to do as Canadians. We can be a victim in this overdose crisis, or we can be an advocate, and we could try to get the government to license and fund interventionists. We can try to get the government to pay attention to this, and also, go to Al-Anon, Nar-Anon, From Grief to Action. Get yourself some help as well. I'm not sure if she has. I don't know what the mom's story is, but more will be revealed, and we'll see what comes out. But we are going overtime here. We've got 2 guests in studio today. But before I go there, you can follow us on Twitter. You can follow us on Facebook. If you want to hear past shows, go to talkrecoveryradio.com and or talkrecoveryvancouver.com, and we've got all our shows there, iTunes and SoundCloud. And at the end of the show, we've got Reese doing his personal story of overcoming addiction. But who are we interviewing first, and who's in our studio today?
Today we get to talk recovery with Executive Director of Charlford House, a women's treatment center in Burnaby, BC, that is here to talk about the wonderful work of Charlford, but also about their hope to win a $125,000 donation from IA Financial Group. Executive Director Miranda, thank you.
Hello.
Hello, and welcome to Talk Recovery.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So how long has Charlford House been in Burnaby?
It's been there for 49 years.
49 years.
Yes.
Wow.
Mhm.
That's wow.
Yeah.
That's all the different overdose crises all along, 50 years. There was one with was it China White or something?
Well, I wasn't there then. What I can tell you is our founder, Thelma McPherson, started the house because she'd been taking people home to get support, because there really wasn't anything at that time. And so she, after a few days and a few times of bringing people home, her husband suggested that if it was a concept that was working, maybe she'd like to find somewhere else for them to go. And so she opened a house on Charlford Street. And that's why we have the name Charlford Street, Charlford House. A year later, they'd outgrown it, so they moved to Kitchener Avenue in Burnaby, which is where we remain to this day.
Okay, so for 48 years, you have been at the same house.
Correct.
Okay,
Yes.
and so what does this house look like today compared to 48 years ago?
Okay, so 48 years ago, it was the top part of one side of a duplex. It's actually a fourplex, but so one side on the upstairs. But over the years, we've gained capacity. So then we took over one side, 1.5, and now we have both sides up and down. So it's 15 bed capacity now, when it started out to be 3 beds.
Okay, and is that enough?
It's never enough in this industry. We wish to have 24 beds, just so that we can better serve the community that need us.
Okay, and tell me about the women that you serve. What is
Right.
your demographic?
Well, 19 years of age and over. For the last 3 years, most of our clientele have been between the ages of 19 and 26. But that said, I mean, we provide services for everybody, and we have a number of seniors that come in as well. So there's more of there's a kind of a leap between the young and then sort of the retirement age people, and just a few in between.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And so what kind of programming do they have? All the same programming regardless of their age?
Correct.
Okay,
Yes.
and what does the programming at Charlford look like?
Well, it's rigorously structured. If you like, I could take you through a day in the life of.
Sure, absolutely.
Sure. So the women get up and if it's a Tuesday or Thursday, they get up at 6 so that they can do yoga in the morning. Every other day they wake up around 7. They have breakfast, and then time to do chores and time to get ready. And between 9:15 and 11:30 is group, which is a group therapy process. And then after that, there's a short break and they have lunch. After lunch, from 1 to 3, they do step work, written step work with each other and guided by the staff. Then they have a break, dinner. After that, they go outside to a 12-step meeting, either AA or NA. If it's a Friday, they can do an in-house meeting. And then they come home from the meeting and they have journaling, and they have to all journal, and then it's lights out by 10 o'clock, and then they get up and do the same thing again the next day. Weekends are a little more lax, but there's still structure.
Okay, and whenever I hear about Charlford, again and again and again, and I've heard it from so many women that I've met in recovery, is that Charlford is all about the love.
It's so true. It's so true. We're rigorously structured, but there's an equal portion of unconditional love. And that really comes across because our program director, Linda Shaw, sort of coined the phrase surrogate family model of treatment. And I think that's probably the best way to describe it. So we're considered to be extended family, all sisters in recovery. And a lot of people that come in, they might never have had a stable home. They might never have experienced love. And they come in full of fear and desperate. So when they come in, a lot of it is foreign to them. But it takes them back to childhood, and they can kind of grow through that childhood again, meet that person, that 5-year-old child, heal her, and sort of grow up in the home until they're ready to kind of leave the house more of a whole person.
So in a sense, almost it sounds like part of the process for the client is to actually grow up again.
Exactly, and while they're doing that, they can, and it's through the 12-step work as well. They're looking at past trauma and abuse and neglect and this sort of thing, and they're doing it in a loving, supportive way with the women and with the staff. And they can, when they look at that, they can see what that injured child was like, and kind of helps them to see why they are the way they are today, or why they picked up drugs or alcohol in the first place. And so by seeing that correlation, we're able to address that and give them opportunities to learn new coping strategies, find emotional balance in their lives. And for those that have difficulty expressing themselves in other ways, we do provide programs like art therapy and music therapy as well. Because for some, just the written word is such a struggle that we'd be at risk of giving them the best that they could have if they don't find another way for self-expression.
Okay, and so can you tell me, like, in
like I know what love looks like, right? But I'm wondering what love looks like at Charlford. So can you tell me in a practical way, like, so a client comes to a counselor and they want to leave, and so they're very upset, they're maybe having anxiety, like that sort of thing. How would the counselor show that person love?
Well, they would include the other women in the house, and they would ask the people in the house to come and surround that person and tell them all the reasons in the world why they'd like them to stay. So it's everybody.
Wow, that is different. Especially when honestly, like, there's a fight for beds and there's a waiting list for beds. I would have, like, it would be easy enough to have the mentality of like, well, if you don't want to stay, there's 30 people that do, that want your spot. So to fight for that woman to stay where she is, like, that's really interesting to me.
And there is the thing where a staff person might say something along those lines, again in group therapy thing, there are beds, so I hope you're serious about staying. But if the person is really planning on leaving, that is still the defense mechanism, even if it's in group, and they're told that yes, there are a lot of people that could take that spot. Then the facilitator of the group will then say, so what do all of you think about what she's saying about wanting to leave? How do you feel about that? So they're still brought in.
Wow, that's impressive. And then your alumni is also very involved in the process. So what role does your alumni play at Charlford?
Well, they're peer support. So the ones that are sort of more newly out of the house, it's a requirement for them to come back and do a volunteer shift. After they've sort of done that for a certain amount of time, they can then do overnight shifts or do weekend shifts. But we also have alumni coming in that are long past alumni. We refer to it as a lifetime spiritual home, and it absolutely is. We have alumni coming that were there years ago, as well as the ones that are more, more recent, and they'll come in. They'll talk to the staff, or they'll come in and just to sit with the girls, or sometimes they'll come and have lunch and just say, oh, I've been missing Charlford House, and I miss what it feels like walking through that door, so I just wanted to come in and be with everybody. So they'll come in and have lunch, and then they'll leave again, or they'll go and sit in the floor of the office and just sort of say, I just need to soak up this feeling again.
Yeah, just sort of be.
Yeah.
I get that. I get that because my mom's house was that, and I lost her 5 years ago, and so and there's just yes, and there's just this thing about just going to that home, and so I get that because I missed that so much when I lost it. So I totally understand that. And then what does it look like? Another thing that I struggled with was with holidays. Once I didn't have my mom's house to go to. So does alumni and clients, do you celebrate holidays at Charlford as well?
Absolutely. So Christmas is a big deal. So what we try to do is we try to create a happy memory for women, because for so many years, for so many women, it was a horrible experience, and for some they've never had a happy Christmas. So we have family and friends come over for Christmas dinner, and before that the women are allowed to have their children overnight, so that they wake up on Christmas Day together, and lo and behold, when they wake up, Santa's been and there's lots of presents under the tree. We have a lot of really great supporters in the community that help that happen. And there's also things where we try to encourage them to get out in the community and also give back, even though they don't yet know that other people have given to them. Like they work at the Christmas Bureau and sorting toys and clothes and things like that. So they're required to, as part of Christmas, to be given. So they go there and they help out, they volunteer. They go to the school that's behind us, the elementary school that's behind us, and help flip pancakes with pancake breakfast with Santa. And they do Christmas caroling around a few blocks where we are. So they're taught to give back.
I love that because it's like they're not just receiving the love, they're giving the love too.
That's right. So they're learning to do both.
Yeah,
Yes.
I love that. As part of the treatment process to understand how good it feels to give.
That's
because I know for me, before I came into recovery, I was completely selfish and self-centered, and I wasn't giving to anybody because I didn't have enough. you know,
Right.
so how could I give? But so what would a larger house mean for all that you do for these women? Like what would that look like? What's your hope and dream for that?
It would be fantastic. We'd like to have 24 beds instead of the 15. And we'd also like to have more space for the programs that we do offer. And there are other things that we bring in from time to time, but it would be nice to be able to have, for instance, the eating addictions and eating or food addiction and eating disorders rather. We'd like to have something like that in-house on an ongoing basis as opposed to just coming in once a month. So we need the office space for these things. We need the space for the programs that we have now, like the yoga, and we have to go outside of the house in order to provide space for that, and it would be nice to have it in the home. And I just think it would be nice to have something that's a little more updated than what we have. And
Yes, I'm kind of laughing a little bit because I it's like one of those things like you don't want to insult someone's home, because it's their home, but it's really dated.
It's humble.
It's so humble.
Or actually, I was very impressed with what Carrie Adams said on CTV the other day. She said it's modest.
Yes, it's very modest.
And I thought, yes.
Yes, it's clear that you are putting all the money into the clients and not into the decorations and the set's falling apart, Giuseppe, and not into the decorations and that sort of thing. It's because I don't know. I grew up sort of like that stuff doesn't matter, but it does because. The thing is like when you've grown up, in like this poverty mindset and that sort of stuff, right? It's like that whole thing of like I imagine you want to like have the outsides match the insides of Charlford, because the insides are all about love, but then the outsides are really modest. So for it to be like a little bit more abundant and bigger and spacious, and I mean, it would be amazing.
It would, and I think there's a psychological thing when people walk in, when it's like new and fresh, and that as opposed to when it's a little more tired. But it's interesting though because people will pull up and kind of go, oh, this is it. But it's not just because of that. It's also because they expect to see an institution, and our facility prides itself in not being institutionalized. It is homey. So I think people are often surprised just the fact that it's a regular old duplex, kind of thing. But when people walk in, they do get that feeling, but sometimes it's people expect to have something a little nicer. And and sometimes you have to overcome that by reminding them that it's about the programming and not just the four walls.
Right, but to have it all would be amazing.
Yeah, wouldn't it be? Yeah.
So are you? So you're in the midst of a contest right now. It's from
Yes.
IA Financial Group. It's for $125,000.
Correct.
So what would this $125,000 mean for Thelma Charlford House?
It would be fantastic because it would be for putting towards the down payment of the Forever Home. And so we do plan to get a Forever Home within the next couple of years in the city of Burnaby, and so it will absolutely go towards that, and then we can just continue to provide our services for the next 50, 100 years, however many.
Right. And is the city of Burnaby helping you at all buy this Forever Home?
They are very helpful and supportive. It's premature at this point, we had talks with the city planning department and
There's a new
zoning
mayor.
and that.
There's a new mayor in town.
Yes, and that mayor is actually very supportive. He supported us even before becoming mayor, as part of the fire department. They've donated appliances for us.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and he's very familiar with Charlford House and very keen for the work that we do. I can say, even though we haven't had to garner their support in some other ways, we have received a lot of support from them at our events, from being donors as well, some of them personally. So we have great relationships with the mayor, past mayor, incoming mayor, and the councillors. Our MPs and MLAs, they're all on side, and they've all been terrific.
That's great. I'm so glad to hear that because really we are in the midst of an overdose crisis.
Yes.
And you're obviously doing amazing work, and I've never heard anything negative said about Charlford, which is actually kind of weird. Like it's almost weird, you know? But I do, again and again, I hear it's all about the love there. All about the love. And I know there's so many people that love you and love the staff and love the house, but would also love for them to win $125,000. So
Absolutely.
how do people vote?
Well, they can go online. I can show you right here. They can either go online to Charlford House, and on the homepage there is a link there. Or they can go onto the IA Financial Group. Which one is that one? That one's this one right here. And can vote there. You'll be having to vote for 2 people, so we ask that you make Charlford your first choice. And if you do go onto Charlford House, if you like, if you're not, we ask you to vote and also encourage everybody else to vote. Send it out to all your contacts, etc. And also at charlfordhouse.ca, if you go there, there is a place where you can donate. You can go to our donate page and you can donate either to the society, which goes to the programming for Charlford House, or you can donate to the foundation, which strictly goes to the Forever Home.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Miranda, for being on Talk Recovery today.
Thank you for having me in. I appreciate it very much.
Yeah, it was super fun. It was nice to get to know you a little bit better.
Thanks.
So you can go to Thelma Charlford House and go on their Facebook page. We'll put a link up on our Facebook page so that you can vote right away for number 1 for Charlford. And then we can all be a part of Charlford spreading the love. So it'd be good. It'd be good. So good. Thank you.
And it's so needed. I mean, it saddens me to hear that there's only 15 beds.
Yes.
You know, like when it's just as you describe it and as we know what's needed, like why? Like how is there that few beds?
Yeah.
Anyways, that's why we're here. We want to spread the message. We know it needs to be done. So let's carry on. We'll get into our first song, and we'll be back with our personal guest Reese, who's in studio with us. So stay on the Facebook page. First song, a little Frank Sinatra for you, and this is "Fly Me to the Moon."
That was great, Miranda. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, say bye to our Facebook fans.
Bye, Facebook fans. Bye.
And this guy's next. You ready, Reese?
Oh yeah.
All right.
Great interview.